this video, we are going to study the obstacles to yoga that Rishi Patanjali gives us in Sutra 1.30. So, these obstacles are called antareyas or chitta vikshepas, things that scatter the consciousness. Yoga is about one-pointedness that helps us find union with what is within us. Anything that scatters us and takes us away from this state of union is called an antareya or a chitta vikshepa. There are 9 antareyas given by Rishi Patanjali. The first antareya is vyadhi or illness. We all know that when we are ill, we are distracted. The pain, the discomfort in our body distracts us and takes us away from being in a state of yoga. Our scriptures tell us that the human body is like a temple in which the divine resides. The temple should be kept healthy by good food habits, regular exercise, and if that is accomplished, to a large extent we'll overcome the obstacle of vyadhi or illness. The second obstacle is dhyana. Dhyana refers to languor, lack of interest, sluggishness. So very often we know we should do something, there is a particular effort we need to make, but a sluggishness and laziness which is dhyana inside us stops us. We should remember that the longest journey begins with the first step. So many of my students, a big problem for them is procrastination. They want to study, but because they are so scared of studying, they keep procrastinating. They'll say they'll study tomorrow, 1 hour later. A part of it is because there's dhyan, there's sluggishness in them coupled with fear of doing it. But it's beautiful to remind yourself that even if something seems very difficult, very impossible, the longest journey begins with the first step. Don't procrastinate, take that first step, and the universe will help you to walk further along. The third obstacle or chitta vikshepa is samshay. Samshay is doubt. Doubt in the path, doubt in yoga, doubt in yourself. All these are obstacles because you'll keep thinking of doubt, which will generate fear, lack of confidence, etc., and will scatter your consciousness. The opposite of samshay is faith or shraddha. Shraddha comes from 2 Sanskrit roots, shradd, your highest truth, and dha, holding on to it. So to combat samshay, we have to find a faith within ourselves, and no matter how difficult circumstances are, hold on to that faith. There's a beautiful story of 2 frogs that fell into a tumbler of milk, which was quite deep. One frog gave in to doubt and let himself die, let himself sink in the milk. The other frog kept faith in himself, and he kept flapping around till the milk churned and became butter, and he climbed out of the milk. So we must never give up, we should make our little efforts, and then the universe does the rest. The next obstacle or chitta vikshepa is pramada. Pramada is carelessness, negligence, whether it's asanas or whether it's work. If we do it with carelessness, that carelessness scatters our consciousness. You must have noticed that anything you do with utmost care, with perfection in mind, it becomes enjoyable. It concentrates your consciousness, it gives you joy. But if you do anything carelessly in a half-baked way, your mind gets scattered and you don't enjoy the process. The fifth chitta vikshepa or antareya is alasya, which is laziness. It goes against the niyama of tapas, which is a burning effort to reach your goal. As they say, an idle mind is a devil's workshop. The more idle you keep your mind, the more you'll think thoughts that scatter you. When our mind and body are not in pursuit of higher goals, we throw open our mind's door to mean, petty thoughts and feelings. Alasya is a bad mental habit acquired by continued yielding to the love of comfort and ease and a tendency to avoid exertion. The sixth Antareya is Avirati. Avirati is sensuality, getting too carried away by the inputs to our senses. For example, you're sitting in a class, there's an interesting session going on, but maybe in the home science lab there's a cake baking and you keep smelling that cake and you're distracted thinking when will you get to eat it, etc., and you don't pay attention to the class. That is one example of Avirati. Of course, Avirati could be getting carried away by senses, by any of the five senses, and losing sight of your goal. The next Antareya is Bhranti Darshan. Bhranti is false and Darshan seeing, false seeing. When your perception is not correct, when you see life quite differently from how it really is, and your wrong perception of life creates unhappy thoughts that scatter your mind. It's good to remember the wisdom of the sentence that happiness is at the end of the day a perspective. Unhappiness is another perspective. As they say, to a pessimist, every flower appears to be a weed, and to an optimist, among all the weeds, he'll find a flower. So the right perception, when we don't have it, we fall prey to Bhranti Darshan. The next obstacle is Alabdha Bhumikatva. This implies disappointment in one's desired object, missing the point. For example, if a mountaineer is climbing a summit and just before he reaches the top of the mountain, he lacks stamina and he doesn't go, or he gets glimpses of the view but then a fog comes. So Alabdha Bhumikatva is missing the point and falling prey to disappointment because of that. The ninth and the last obstacle is Anavasthitattvani. A easy way to remember, we all know the Hindi word avastha, state. Anavasthitattvani means not being able to hold on to a state that you've achieved in yoga. I see this very commonly when I take my children to Pondicherry for a yoga camp. Many of them come back very changed, very different, but 1 week back in the city life and that window of consciousness which had opened closes. Somehow they are not able to maintain the state of consciousness they had achieved. And this we encounter on a daily basis. Even after a yoga class, after a good meditation, we feel different, we feel happy, we feel at peace. But as we get engaged in day-to-day living, we are not able to maintain that state. That is Anavasthitattvani. So as important as meditating, it's important to maintain a meditative state of peace and calm throughout the day. So now, a simple way to remember these obstacles, I teach my children a mnemonic. Very super smart Preeti also acts boldly about Anahita. Very Vyadi, super Styan, smart Samshay, Preeti Pramad, Alasya is also, acts is Avirati, boldly Bhranti Darshan, about Alabdha Bhumikatva, Anahita Anavasthitattvani. So if you remember this one sentence, you'll remember all the 9 Antareyas in the right order. The order is always important. Now, in Sutra 1.31, which is one sutra after 1.30, Rishi Patanjali gives us the accompaniments of a scattered mind. How brilliant Rishi Patanjali is that he immediately compares a scattered mind to an unhappy mind, or rather says that the more distracted and scattered your mind is, the more unhappy you will be, because very often my yoga students will come to class very unhappy about something. But after a good yoga class, when their mind is quiet, the situation outside hasn't changed. But because their thoughts have slowed down, they are not so unhappy about it anymore. The situation is what it is, but it's our overthinking about it that makes us unhappy. So, Rishi Patanjali says the first accompaniment of a scattered mind is dukkha, sorrow, pain, grief, distress. Then he says the second accompaniment is daur manasya, extreme despair, which can become depression. The next accompaniment is anga major yatva, shakiness in the body. So if you've got a very unhappy mind, it attacks your nervous system so much that it creates tics and tremors and shakiness in the body. And the fourth accompaniment of the antareyas is shwas, prashva, saha, or unsteadiness of the breath. The mind and breath are like twin souls. If your mind is calm, your breath will be rhythmic and peaceful. But if your mind is agitated and scattered, your breath will be shaky, unsteady, without rhythm. So that is shwas, prashva, saha. Namaste.